Okay, good morning, everybody. Welcome to today's open forum. We have some interesting stuff for you to discuss today. We're going to go over the as-is contract. We've had a few issues here and there, and we're going to go over it now. I'm going to go over the blank form with you guys. You guys have any questions before we get started? Anything in particular you'd like to cover? You should have received, you did receive, if you got the invitation to this, you received an attachment to that email, which was a key dates checklist. Now you can do whatever you want with this. I can send it to you in a Word also, so you can change it here and there. That is just something that ChatGPT put together for me in 21 seconds or something like that. So it was very interesting when I asked it about the as is. It needed different forms when they were updated, etc. But it did a great job of breaking down all of the questions and stuff that people have for it. But I do need you guys to participate today and communicate with me and let me know if you have any questions on dates, on anything like that. Back to this, and I'll pull it up right now. But I want to go over also keep in your mind your key dates. And go over it that way. All right. Let's go over this. When it pulls up, which it will terribly. There it goes. Okay. Here we go. All right. So it is sharing now. Everybody see that? Everybody see it well? Okay, great. You guys know the parties. This needs to be the name that it's in. You can use the name that's on the property appraiser's thing. If there's ever a change that needs to be made to that because it wasn't recorded properly or anything like that, they'll handle it during the title process. The buyers, put the buyers' names as you believe them to be. What's on the pre-qual, discuss with them whose name they want to buy it. Don't just put somebody's name. Discuss with them the name they want to buy it in. There may be something that their lender has to say about that. So check the names on the pre-approval and go from there. One thing we're going to come to here in a second, and I'm going to scroll down to it, is assignability. I prefer the second one, which is may assign but not be released from liability under this contract. I like to send them like that. They may counter with this, and that's okay. You can always change the name later, but this may not assign this contract means that they have to approve it. Okay, so the seller may want, if something's not going well in this deal and you find out last minute that you need to change names, the seller may not approve it. And seller say, nope, you have to forfeit your deposit. Please make sure you're muted. You're going to have to forfeit your deposit if that's the case. So I like this one, may assign but not be released from liability under this contract. And if the listing agent wants to know why, just tell them, look, we've got it in their two names. They may need a co-signer. They may need one of them off, one of them put on. You might need to change it somehow for the lender. We're not flipping this. They want to live there. Explain it like that. But they still may do this, and that's fine too. That gives them a little more leverage for the seller at the end, which is why I don't like to do it. But let's get back to this. So the names on the parties, city, state, and zip, located in the county. Fill all this stuff out. Don't be lazy. The thing will do most of it for you, and along with the legal, obviously, when you put it in there and you look up the information, the Form Simplicity or Transaction Desk will automatically do this for you. You can see I'm on Transaction Desk. It'll fill that in when you fill in the property, the tax ID. That is a number with all the dashes. Some jurisdictions have a key number, property key. That's not it. It's the one with all the dashes, with the ranges, townships, and sections and all that stuff. Okay, personal property. You guys know this stuff. Remember what's on here and what's not, and you need to put everything that you want that's not on here right here. Okay, you've seen all appliances, cooktop, dishwasher, disposal. Some people put stuff in there that they don't have to, but some people, it's fine if you overdo it. But this is what determines it, not what's in the MLS, not anything else. I've had you guys do that before, but they said they were leaving the washer and dryer in the MLS. It was there when we did the walkthrough. It needs to be on here. They are technically correct if it was there when you saw it with the walkthrough, but they didn't exclude it. But this is the overriding document that decides this is why you guys have to buy washers and dryers at the closing table, because you don't put it here. Okay. The following items are excluded. If you're the listing agent, make sure they are, but if you're the buyer's agent, put none. Okay. If you're the listing agent and they want to take their light fixtures, they want to take their draperies, they want to take something like that, their window treatments, then they need to put that in here, and the buyer needs to know up front. Okay. They should have also put it in the MLS, so this isn't a surprise that they're negotiating for it later. But it has to be on here. I don't care if it's in the MLS. The MLS is not official. The NAR is not a legal enforcing entity. It is something we agree to as realtors, but it's not a legal enforcement entity. So, yes, Tammy, you have a question?
I've had several that want to take the TV mounts and then they leave such a big holes in the walls.
Mm-hmm.
How would you suggest dealing with that, or just let it go and tell the buyers that there's going to be holes in the wall?
The seller needs to replace the holes in the wall. The seller needs to spackle in the holes in the wall. That's it. I mean, I have not considered that the TV mounts, TV mounting hardware, all that stuff that's supposed to go with it. When I bought my house, I still have I had a mount that the mounts didn't fit my TVs. So it has to be certain size TVs and certain stuff like that. So leaving mounts is not great. I don't mind if people take mounts, but they need to fill the hole in the wall. It does say they're going to leave you the television mounting hardware. So
I guess what you could do is when you have excluded items and you put that, I guess you could add and patch the wall behind it, or something too.
Well, there's a thing on here. It's supposed to be the house is supposed to be. You guys know the way you're supposed to leave a house. What do you tell your clients?
Broom swept.
Broom swept. But that goes with no holes in the wall. That goes with that stuff. You leave a decent house. It doesn't have to be sparkling, but it needs to be clean, free of your debris, and certainly not with holes in the wall. So that is a thing. But if I don't mind you guys putting and not leave holes on the wall in the contract. Even put that in your additional terms every time you write one. House will be broom swept and with no large holes in the wall.
Supposed to be in the same condition when the buyer saw it the first time.
Yeah, but without all their stuff, so it's hard to tell what holes are in the wall because you can't see behind the TV mounts and all that. Obviously, there's holes in the wall, but yeah, it's supposed to be in that same condition, obviously. But you can't tell with people's, if there's a stain on the carpet because their sofa was over it or something. You can't tell, or a rug was over it. All right, the price is what everybody looks for first, but there's lots of terms that are important on the as-is contract. The price is the first one that we see. It's the first one we look at when we get an offer, and it is important. The escrow is also important. The initial deposit, earnest money deposit, goes here. Obviously, the escrow agent name. Fill this in, or they're going to be people doing different stuff, right? So they'll put. If you're the listing agent, if you don't put it on the MLS, people are going to put TBD here, and you're going to have to write it all in, X that out and write it all in. Happens all the time. Not a huge deal, but it's better if you just have it on the MLS so they know where to do it. Some agents won't put it on the MLS because they don't want every title company seeing where they're doing their title business, and I don't blame you for that either. So it's up to you. It's just going to be a little bit more work here when you get this and somebody types in TBD, right? And then you've got to X that out all through the signature program and do all that stuff. So do with that what you will. That's up to you. A lot of you guys don't want, you work with a couple different title companies. You don't want them to know which one is which. You get upset, whatever. So there you go. Initial deposits. We almost never see these, and that's perfectly fine. I don't think we need to see these. It's very common in commercial after your due diligence period to put an additional deposit. And and when you do that, it's immediately non-refundable. Financing expresses a dollar amount or percentage. You guys know how to do this. So you do 90% and it works out the math for you. So let's say we're buying this for 800,000. We're putting down 25,000. Typical, you guys ask this question a lot. 2%, pretty typical, 1 to 2%. If it's a cash deal, maybe higher. I don't know why people just do that, but obviously if they back out, it's going to be because of they changed their mind. It's on a cash deal, not because they didn't get financing. And so there you go. So these people are putting 25 down. They need to bring 55,000 to closing at 90%. Now, when you change this number, let's say you go back and forth and they offered 800, but you're going to get 810. That's going to change. Doesn't change that, but it changes how much they have to bring. Okay. So there we go. Give them a couple of days. I tell people, depending on the seller, you give them a couple of days. But if I wrote a contract today, I'd give them probably till Friday, depending on my buyer, the seller, the situation, whatever. If the seller's overseas, maybe you give them until Saturday, something like that, so they can communicate, go back and forth with questions. But typically, it's going to be, sometimes it's tomorrow, sometimes it's the next day. Okay. And there is no 5 o'clock written anywhere on here. They have till midnight unless you specify otherwise. You can put at 5 p.m. Okay. So I might want this back so we can go look at houses after work on Friday. If they don't respond, I might do that there and put by 5 p.m. Okay. You can do that. You can do whatever you want on it. You make it 3 p.m., 1 p.m. It doesn't matter. You can do whatever you want. 2:45. It doesn't matter. You can do whatever you want. Closing date. Obviously, you pick a date based on what your lender tells you when you can actually close, and then add some days to it, because we're not going to decide till Friday and then we're going to counter over the weekend and not get it signed till Monday or Tuesday. Now I'm on the 10th instead of the 4th. That's almost another week. So I want to make sure if the lender says 30 days, also they're probably lying. So if they said, I'm not going to go to first of all, February only has 28 days. So 30 days from today will be the 6th of March, right? And then we're going to give it at least another week. So 13th or 20th is what we'd offer. And that's very fair. That's 44 days from today. That's perfectly fair for the seller's not going to complain about that either, typically. Okay. So let's set that for the 20th of March. All right. Any questions on that? There is no right or wrong answer there. It's just whatever you agree on with the buyer and the seller. That's something that certainly can be countered. Everything on here can be countered. Okay, this is where you guys get lost. If you're selling a property that has a tenant, we've gotten in trouble for this before. You need to check this box if the tenant is going to last, if the new owner is going to take over the tenancy. Okay, if the new owner is going to be the new landlord, they need to check this box very much, because otherwise it needs to be broom swept. And so what you're telling me here, it's not going to be broom swept. There's going to be a person in there. It will not be. It will be occupied after closing. It certainly will have stuff in it because there's going to be someone in it, and you know that when you bought it. We're going to do estoppel letters. We're going to do from the HOA. We're going to do tenant estoppels. We're going to do whatever if necessary. But typically, the tenant doesn't care. You just have a new owner. So Carolina owned it last week. I bought it. Carolina was the landlord. I'm the landlord now. I cannot kick them out. I cannot do anything until the end of their lease, just like Carolina. I just get all the rights and obligations that Carolina had when she owned it. Okay. So I can't kick them out. If their lease goes through July, I can't kick them out next week because I want to raise the rent, or I can't give them 2 months. I've got to give them till July. If they want to move out, I can ask them, hey, I'll give you guys, $3,000 if you move out. That's between me and them. That's same thing Carolina could have done. I have the same rights and obligations that she had. But she better check this. Otherwise, I can say, I thought the property was going to be empty. It's a regular sale. I expect it to be broom swept. And here we go with people living in it, right? So you must check this if the tenant is going to last throughout the closing process. They're going to be there after closing.
I have a question about that, Brian.
Yes.
So what would happen to the deposit?
Great question. The title company will move it over, or we can move it over. We as people, as agents, the buyer, Carolina. Typically the title company is going to take money from Carolina and give it to me as security. Okay. So we're going to send them a copy of the lease, just so you know, and the lease will have the security deposit. If the lease has been renewed, whatever, just as long as it has the original security deposit number on that. So they gave Carolina $2,000 on the closing statement. Carolina is going to credit me $2,000. I don't get that $2,000. I have to keep it in a separate for them, right?
Thanks.
So I have their deposit now. Great question, Carolina.
Isn't this information? Well, Shouldn't this information be on the listing on the realtor's remarks
Of what?
as well?
Oh,
That
well,
there's
these
a
those
tenant?
folders, absolutely. So if you look at a house that's occupied right now, it'll say under current tenant, current tenant through July 31st.
Correct.
Okay.
Okay.
It'll say that on there. And if you went and looked at it, you saw them sitting there, right? You saw their stuff. So yeah, we absolutely would have discussed that. You want to know how much rent they're paying, et cetera, right? Or you wouldn't have bought it. So yeah, so there's nobody gets surprised with this stuff unless there's a squatter or something who wasn't there when you went and then they moved in later. But no, nobody's surprised with this stuff. It's just a mistake to not click this box because you can be held to it. And if the buyer wants out of the deal later for no reason at all, they can get out because of that. Oh, you didn't check this. I thought there was, even though we talked about it over and over again. It doesn't matter. I did the contract wrong, or I didn't make sure as a listing agent. A lot of buyers agents don't know this. They'll have the first time investor or something like that. They don't know to check this. You better check it, and then everybody initial it when you counter the offer. Shirley.
Yeah. When we refund, the title company do the refunding, do they have to put do they have to have a both side buyer and the seller agreement agreed upon this refund? Do they have a
Of what the
additional agreement?
You're talking about security deposit?
Yes, security deposit. The
Nope,
title company.
just move it over. It'll just be a line on the contract. It'll just be a line
It's
on
automatically
on the ALTA, on the settlement statement. There's a
Okay.
line, and it'll debit one and credit the other, debit the seller and credit the buyer. So Carolina, after I bought this from Carolina, she's going to transfer the title company is going to debit her $2,000 and credit it to me, and she can take the $2,000 that she was keeping for them and keep it. She spends it on her own. It becomes her money. And now that $2,000 is not my money; it's their money. It's security deposit. Okay, so I have to keep track of it now. But there's nothing we sign. It's all part of the documents. All right, financing. You guys know the cash. I'm going to go over this with you. I know we've been over it several times, but we're going to do it again, and because people still have a hard time with it, not just you guys, everybody in the world does apparently. The contract is contingent on obviously 30 days after the effective date of the loan approval period. You can put whatever you want here. If you're on the listing side and you want it shorter, you can do that. If you're on the buyer side and you want it longer, you can ask for 40. I've seen them at 40. I've seen them at 20. I've seen them at 15. You guys can do whatever you want. I've seen 45. You guys can do whatever you want. Whatever you are pre-approved for is what you should check here, but you can change later. And as long as everything closes, unless it's VA, then FHA or VA, then the addendum has to be signed by the seller. But if you switch from conventional 90% down, like we had up here, 90% financing to 80%, you do something like that, or 95%, it doesn't matter unless you don't close. So don't try to get out of it later because of that. Say, oh, well, we wanted to do 95%, but then we didn't qualify for 95%. Well, that's not what we agreed to on the original thing. You said 90%, because this does matter to sellers. So you guys remember when we were getting multiple offers for everything, this number, this 90% right here, mattered to people, right? Because when somebody's financing 80% and somebody's financing 95%, the 80% offer is better, right? It's just a better offer for a couple of reasons. One is if it doesn't appraise, we know that 80% person has a little more cash they can come up if they need to. And 80% loans, so it's a stronger buyer. Typically, they have more cash. Typically, a stronger buyer, easier loan. Things, a couple of dollars here and there don't throw them off. So it doesn't throw their payment off as much. It doesn't throw them off. So that matters. So what you choose matters too. FHA and VA have different rules, different things. If we have an issue with that they deem livability, let's say the range doesn't work. We can't close. Normally, if the range didn't work at inspection, I can credit you $500 and you're fine, right? But on FHA, VA, it has to be fixed up front. If there's a roof issue, it has to be fixed up front. It has to be livable at closing for FHA, VA, right? So those are government-backed loans, and they have different rules. So this matters. You can't say conventional and then do FHA or VA without the seller's approval to switch. Also, FHA and VA appraisals stay with them for 6 months. You can't get another appraisal. You can't have a bad appraisal and then get a better one. They don't. If you go from FHA and you get a bad appraisal and the deal falls apart, your next conventional one, they're going to do their own appraisal. They're not going to pay attention to the FHA appraisal. But if you do an FHA appraisal and you get another FHA deal, you're stuck with that first appraisal. Okay. So some people, you'll see people say, we don't want an FHA deal. And that's because they might have had a bad FHA appraisal before and they can't redo it. Right. So they're stuck with that number. Fixed, adjustable, fixed or adjustable, doesn't matter what you click here, whatever they're getting offered. Typically you want to do fixed, typically is what you're going to see. Rate not to exceed market. But if you put something like 6 here, you're protecting your client a little bit better. Even if their approval letter, their pre-approval says 5 3/4 or whatever, or 6 1/4, whatever it is, you put a number a little bit lower, that's perfectly fine. That could help your client later if they need to get out of the deal for some reason. They can say, look, we didn't get the 5.75% we wanted, we got 6.
I have a question about that too.
Yes.
Wouldn't that be something, Ryan, that the lender sees in the contract? And if they were going to be given a lower interest rate, if they see that they are willing to pay more, would they get a higher interest rate then?
No, they're going to put lower here. So they're going to put, like right now, they might put 5.5, not 65.5, 5.5. Okay. And you might get a client approved right now at 5.625 and they put 5.5. That's just protecting them more. But typically you're going to put what's on there or something really close to it. No, the lender doesn't care. Okay. Financing within 5. I don't like to leave blanks, guys. Fill these in, even if it says 5. If there's some reason your client can't apply for 10 days, then explain that. Put 10 and explain it. Most people don't really care too much about what this number. They don't really read it. Usually people leave it blank. But every date is important, and deals have fallen apart because someone didn't apply within 5 days. So yes, Carolina.
This is for us when we have a buyer, but for listing agents, that percentage, I sometimes frown upon that.
I want to see what's in the approval letter. If I'm the listing agent, if you're the buyer's agent, you make a little lower. But if I'm the listing agent, I want to see either the exact money that's on there or market is great.
Okay.
Market is fine. See, people will write market there. Okay, but typically people are going to write what's on the loan approval, the pre-approval. Okay. I'm just saying I like to put maybe an 1/8 of a point lower just to protect my client a little bit more. That's just kind of a trick. That's how old agents trick you. You'll see this is where a lot of times the buyer's agent will try to slip in something here on you. Just make sure you always check this. This is where a lot of times, instead of in the additional terms where it should be, they'll put 3% towards buyer's prepaids and closing costs right here. And by the time you write all that out, 3% toward buyer's prepaids and closing costs. And you can see it's probably getting pretty small by now. It is, right? And they try to sneak this kind of stuff in. Just make sure that you pay attention to this. Because they might even try that 3% toward buyer of purchase price. There you go. They can't even get all that in there. But you guys see what they'll do. And so just be wary of that. Do not do this as a buyer's agent. I talk about being a tricky buyer's agent, being, for your client. This isn't doing anybody any good. This is the kind of thing that can kill a deal later. So the seller will try to weasel out of a deal if you do this, and I don't blame them. So don't try to sneak stuff in here. You can even say see additional terms, something like that. That's perfectly fine. But you can put it. Sometimes you see it here and you see it in additional terms. That's fine too. But don't just put it here and try to be tricky, because all you're going to do is waste your client's time and energy. And I've never seen that close. I've heard you guys have called me with these before and said somebody snuck one in there on me, whatever, but those deals have never closed for whatever reason. So don't do that. You can see additional terms, you can put whatever you want, but make sure that. Now, if you're the listing agent, this isn't where you put your your 350 or anything like that either. Whatever your 399, whatever your transaction fee is, this is not where you put that. It should be on your listing agreement. And if it's not, shame on you. It should have been. Buyer, a lot of times you'll see the buyers, and I don't mind if you do this. If you want to put your 3%, per your buyer brokerage agreement right here, that's fine. You can do that. Put 3% per buyer brokerage agreement, something like that. And then in additional terms, you're going to ask for it probably, and then do that. Typically in this part of the state, seller shall designate closing agent and pay for owner's policy and charges. Buyer shall pay premiums and any title policies and endorsements. Okay, so this is normal. This is what we're doing now. Different parts of the state and different parts of the country, it's popular to have the buyer designate the closing agent and pay for the owner's policy. And there you go. Typically, whoever chooses the closing agent pays the, don't let somebody do that to you. Don't let the buyer pick their title company and you and your client, the seller, pays the title insurance, because that's not good. That's not, you have no control over that deal, and you're probably paying, your seller is probably paying higher rates than they would anywhere else. There's no reason for that. We just had someone this week who the buyer chose and paid for the title company, and we're going to have some kind of issue because the escrow was wrongly released to them, which is something else I want to cover, but remind me to cover something on cancellations after. Survey, at least 5 days prior, blah, blah, blah. You guys know about the surveys, right? At least 5 days prior to closing date, buyer may, at buyer's expense, have the real property surveyed. A lot of lenders will require this, et cetera. So you may or may not have to do that. Your buyer may or may not have to do that. Home warranty, you'll see a lot of NAs here. Typically the seller, if someone buys one, it's the seller. The buyer doesn't have to put it on here. They can buy their own home warranty anywhere they want. So wouldn't have to be on the contract. I could go buy a home warranty today for my house. So typically if it's on the contract, anything besides the NA is typically that they want the seller to buy a home warranty for their buyer. You don't see a lot of that right now, but you may. Yes, Carolina. Okay. Special assessments. These are public assessments, guys. This is not, I see you guys fighting with people over this for condos and townhomes and stuff like that. This is not a special assessment for that. Right here on page, on line 190, public body. This is, I know you guys don't hear these a lot. This is weird. There are some public streets that the homeowners have to take care of because it's only for 3 or 4 or 5 houses, something like that. They went to the county and got a public street made, but they get assessed by the county for maintaining it. Okay, county or city or whomever. That is not 99.99% of the houses we sell. That is not a thing. Okay, but it is. If it is, just click this one because that's the one. If neither box is checked, which happens a lot, then option A shall be deemed selected. I would tell you that most buyers fill this out. Most buyers agents fill this out and they think it's special assessments like your HOA would give you. It's not. It's from the public body. Your HOA is not a public body. It's a private. All right. So don't freak out over those. If somebody says that the buyer is going to pay or the seller is going to pay in full prior, whatever. Okay. It doesn't matter. What this says is the seller will pay if it's due now, but the buyer will pay after anything that comes up. And that seems pretty obvious. Yes, Shirley.
Yeah, usually click the second one, the seller pay in full.
Okay.
Or does it save some money for the
that's what you would
buyer.
do typically. That's typically what we would do for an HOA, like a condo or something like that. We would write in there that the seller will close them all out in full prior to closing. But this is for public ones. He's fine. You can do that one if you want. And the listing agent may say, "Oh my gosh, no way, we're not paying anything that comes up," and say, "Look, this is for the public body. You guys live in Shadow Oaks
Nobody say that.
Yeah, if it's in a subdivision, if it's on a city street, whatever, that's not happening. It's these little back streets and stuff that the county will maintain for a group of homeowners that is only there for them.
Gotcha.
I've never seen that come into play for you guys. Okay, so now we're getting to the boilerplate stuff. Here's FERPTA, here's the lead-based paint, all that stuff. You guys know about that, pre-1978. So 77, 78 is the cutoff. If it's 78 or later, you don't need one. If it's 77 or before, you do. FERPTA, you guys we do classes on that separately. There's some on your YouTube channel if you need them. Property maintenance, except for ordinary wear and tear and casualty loss, like we talked about a few minutes ago, with it should be in the shape that the buyer saw it when they walked it. Seller shall maintain the property, including but not limited to the lawn, shrubbery, pool, condition existing as of effective date. See paragraph 9 for procedure, escrow procedures. Okay, so this is just about keeping it in the same shape that we saw it. You can't start keeping chickens in the backyard after I looked at your property and went under contract. Okay, the inspection. This comes up a lot. Buyer shall have how many ever days you guys decide. 15 is a lot right now. Inspectors aren't too busy. You should be, if you want to have a competitive offer. You can put 15 here if you just want a place to start with negotiation, give them something to come back with. You can put 15 if you don't think they have any other offers or anything like that. That's perfectly fine. Typically, you're going to see 7 or 10 here. Do whichever one you want, but fill it out. Now, if the buyer determines, look on line 263. I don't know if you guys can see you can see my cursor. If buyer determines in buyer's sole discretion that the property is not acceptable to buyer, buyer may terminate this contract by delivering written notice of such election to seller prior to expiration of the inspection period. Okay. For any reason, the buyer's sole discretion, this house doesn't work. Okay. I put it under contract and I walk into it and I said, you know what? I didn't realize when I first saw this, that this bedroom is pink. I cannot live in a house with a pink bedroom. I can't even paint over it. It just drives me crazy. I'm backing out of this contract. That's perfectly fine. You can back out for any reason whatsoever during the due diligence period. Every time you walk in that house, you get a headache. Doesn't matter. Something happened. Your mom went to the hospital and you got to leave town for a few days. You can cancel your contract. Okay. For whatever reason they want, it doesn't matter. I've had you guys on the seller side call me and be mad about it. I've got you guys on the buyer side call me and be worried about it. If during that 7, 10, 15 days, whatever is on here, for any reason whatsoever, they decide they don't want to buy the property, they can get out and get their deposit back, 100% of their deposit. Okay. They do not have to get an official inspection. They do not have to get a professional inspection. They don't ever have to go to the property and they can still cancel. They can put it under contract, never go visit it, and say, you know what, we decided to do something else with our money, right? This happens with investors, happens with a lot of people. It doesn't happen as much with, families and stuff, but it does happen. There's buyer's remorse and they can back out and it happens. We went home and we prayed or we did whatever about it and we decided not to buy it. That's perfectly legitimate with the as is. Now with the standard contract, they would have to hire an inspector. Okay, and the only way they get out of the contract is if the inspection is beyond 1.5% of one of those 3 things. I'm not going to go through them all right now, but it's general repair items, it's wood destroying organisms, and it is something else I can't think of right now. But all 3 things, any of those 3 things are more than 1.5% of the value of the home, then they can back out. The seller, if they disagree with that, or disagree with the repairs that they have to make, has to hire their own inspector. And that inspector goes and what they don't agree on with the first inspection, you have to hire, if those don't agree, you have to hire together a 3rd inspector. It's insane to get either something established with this deal or get it canceled. Whatever it is that's going to happen from that is going to be based on that. Or the seller can say, you know what, it's more than 1.5%, but we'll do it. Well, then you can't get out of the contract for any reason if you're the buyer. So let's say the buyer has this $800,000 thing and they find a 1.5% problem, which is what, a $12,000 problem, say it needs a new roof. Well, the seller doesn't agree that it needs a new roof. And let's say this roof is $20,000 and 1.5% is only $12,000. The seller says, you know what, I don't think we need a new roof. That roof's only 12 years old. It's perfectly fine. Let me have my roof inspector come out. So they pay an inspector to come out. Then they say, oh, you don't need a new roof. Well, the buyer says, well, that's your inspector. That might be your cousin for all I know. Who knows? Right? So let's hire a 3rd inspector. You have to do all of this. And then the seller can say, you know what? I'll pay for a new roof. And so then the buyer's like, they're stuck in the deal at that point. So just be wary of that. Viviana.
So I'm so glad you mentioned that because I kept thinking about the timing of the inspection. When you only give like 10 to 15 days. It sounds like a long time, but you don't always get your inspector out there right away. The report comes back and there's what you're detailing here, questions about repair costs versus replacement, who's going to negotiate what. So where does that time period that we leave on the document for inspections, how does that play out?
Well, you just extend it. If it's going back and forth, obviously the seller is going to agree to extend it. Because if they don't agree to extend it, then the buyer backs out. This is what we can.
So you extend the closing date or the inspection period?
The inspection period.
Okay.
So on the regular extension addendum, it has all these different things that you can extend, and one of them is the inspection period. You might want to extend some of the other dates too, because everybody's going to be behind now a little bit. For instance, if I think I'm going to back out, I'm going to let the lender know, and they're going to stop working on my file. Right? So, yeah, you can extend any of these dates. And if you're going back and forth, make sure you extend. Guys, that is something we see a lot. You get to the 10th day or the 7th day or whatever's the last day of the inspection period. You had asked for certain repairs on the 6th day, and they didn't respond on the 6th day or the 7th day, and now it's the last day. You got to let them know, either sign this repair addendum or we're going to cancel, right? If we don't hear back from you, we're consider this cancellation. Because you will have people try to drag you on and say, oh no, you guys didn't cancel. Well, we were negotiating. Just get it extended. Say, can we get this extended for a couple of days so we can figure this out? And there you go. That's inspection. Unless you have any other questions on that, you guys are pretty familiar with it. If it ends on this date, let's talk about dates. Escrow, if you put a deal under contract today, tomorrow is day 1, Friday is day 2, Monday would be day 3. It's a business days only, bank open days only. If it's a bank holiday or whatever, it's not. If next week were President's Day, it would be extended till Tuesday. Inspection periods can never end on a weekend. Okay, so if Saturday is day 7, a lot of times it is, because you put something under contract on a Friday, Saturday, Sunday. Saturday's day 7, it goes to Monday. Sunday's day 7, it goes to Monday, or whatever the last day is, it goes to Monday. Okay, it cannot expire on a weekend. All right.
So sorry, Ryan, did I understood that inspection period days are regular business days, not calendar days?
No, they count. So that's a great question. Thank you. So if we put something under contract today with a 10-day inspection period, okay? So Thursday will be day 1. Next Thursday will be day 8, right? Because the weekends do count. This first weekend does count during inspection days. You can get inspections on weekends, but you can't make escrow deposits on weekends. So think of it that way.
But if I had a contract signed by both parties yesterday, per se, it was signed and delivered last night, 11 p.m. Yesterday was the effective day of the contract, but today is actually the first day of inspection, correct?
Today is the first day. Day 0 is the effective day is day 0. The next day is day 1, right? So let's say we did it today. So next Thursday is day 8. Next Friday is day 9. Next Saturday would be day 10. If I have a 10-day inspection on that goes to Monday. Okay, and it's midnight. There's no 5 p.m. anywhere in this contract unless you write it in. 5 p.m. is a made-up thing. Now closing, you've got to do that before 5 p.m. typically, because that's when the closing agent stops, right? Escrow deposit, you got to do that before 5 p.m. That's where that comes from. That 5 p.m. nonsense comes from banks closing, title companies closing at 5. But anything that we're doing without banks or title companies, it's all day. In fact, closing is all day if you can get the title company to stay open, in which they do. I get emails from title companies working at 6:45 at night and 7:30 at night sometimes. So sometimes they will, but that's where that 5 p.m. the people get confused about 5 p.m. It's nowhere on here. It just is a practical thing for making an escrow deposit or closing a deal. Okay. Walk through inspection and reinspection. Let's look at this. On the day prior to closing date or on closing date prior to time of closing, as specified by buyer or buyer's representative. Oh, sorry, as specified by buyer or buyer's representative may perform a walkthrough. That can be you. Can you do a walkthrough? I've had you guys ask, can I do a walkthrough without the buyer? Yes, absolutely. With the buyers directed by buyer. May perform a walkthrough and follow-up walkthrough if necessary. So if you go there at, let's say we're closing at 1 o'clock today, and you went there at 9:30 because you had a very important Zoom call to be on at 10:30. You went there at 9:30 and saw that the washer and dryer were gone. We talked about this. There's supposed to be a washer and dryer. It's in the contract. It's everywhere. There's supposed to be washer and dryer. Or the washer and dryer was a Samsung and now it's a scratch and dent, right? Two different colored scratch and dent washer and dryer. We've all seen this. And you called and raised Cain with these people. And they said, you know what? My bad. I'll get them back over there. And you can re-inspect at 12:30 before closing. You can go back by the same day and make sure it's in there, not just take their word for it. All right. So you can inspect and re-inspect, or you went yesterday and you want to go again today, whatever it is, you can do that. Or they left the giant holes in the wall that they said they wouldn't, right? Because we put it in the contract, Tammy. We left big holes in the wall. They said they wouldn't. So they're going to send their guy over, this morning to get it done. And you're allowed to go back and make sure he did it. Personal items solely to confirm that all items of personal property are on the property, and to verify that seller has maintained the property as required by the as-is maintenance requirement and has met all other contractual obligations. That's what I'm talking about when we said they're going to fill the holes. They're going to do whatever. It's going to be broom swept with the holes filled. Okay. No holes bigger than a dime or whatever it is you want to say, right? The bigger than a pinhole in the walls. All right, seller assistant cooperation closing out of building permits. Obviously, that's all part of that. I see you guys write this in the additional terms. That's not necessary. I don't know why you write it there. Somebody decided one day to write it, and it's probably from another state or something. And they started writing it, and they taught people to write it, and now people write it. Assignment of repair and treatment contracts and warranties. A lot of people have these termite treatments and stuff like that they get by the year. They get assigned. But that's something that the agents have to do because buyers and sellers aren't going to do that on their own. So just make sure they do that. Escrow agent, professional license, broker liability, default. This is all the boilerplate stuff, force majeure. You guys know about that. Prorations and credits. You guys know how all that stuff works. You've been doing that. That is your taxes, your property taxes prorated at time of closing. So if you're closing this time of year, it'll be very little proration going because they've only owned it a month. But if you close in November, there'll be a lot of it. Actually, they'll just probably pay it. And you may, as the buyer may end up crediting the seller because they'll go ahead and pay him in November. And so the buyer credits the seller pays them, and the buyer credits the seller for what they paid for the month they're going to have it, or whatever it is, if you close around December 1st. There we go. There's the FERPTA thing again, tax withholding. You guys know to click these, whatever ones you're using, make sure that you click them. Make sure you're doing your flood disclosures, etc. I don't think they're on here. They don't need to be on here because they're required with everything. Seller agreement with respect to buyer's broker compensation. We're not really using that GG form. That is not a regular form. That is the GG. Make sure you're paying attention to what these forms actually are. If you have licensee property interest, etc., do that. But if you're getting the seller's agreement with respect to buyer brokerage compensation, is just a thing that says it will come to an agreement. It doesn't say what the agreement will come to an agreement for a certain amount. It does not the agreement. So if you have the agreement where they've sent you the seller or seller's broker to buyer's broker, that's completely separate. That does not go anywhere on here. Yes, Carolina.
There was a meeting maybe a couple of weeks ago that you mentioned that there's a new form that has to be filled out. I don't know if it's part of these disclosures, and I don't know what that form is.
It's a different form. They combine the seller to buyer's broker and the seller's broker to buyer's broker form into one form.
Oh, okay.
Which is actually an improvement because you don't have to remember which form to send now.
Cool.
All right. Any other questions? Let's go to this. Buyer, seller, you guys, cooperating sales associate. If you get both of these, you just do the listing sales associate, and that you don't have to put yourself for both, but you can if you want to. And that's it. Do you have any questions?
I do.
Yes.
Maybe a couple. Okay. One, Is the GG form necessary if you put the commission, the seller or the seller's brokers paying commission into the initial terms? That's question number one. Question number two is, if listing agents, when we set up appointments and things like that, we always have to go back and ask, how much is the seller paying, da, 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 da. The seller broker to buyer broker, or the sellers to buyers broker, we don't know that because we don't know what they put on their listing agreements. I always put on additional terms, sellers/sellers brokers to pay, the commission and things like that, and just leave it like that in the additional terms. I also fill out the regular form where it's sellers brokers to buyers brokers, because normally the listings belong to the broker, not the agents. But is anybody else on this call happen to have to call all the time the listing agents to ask who is paying? Is it the seller paying?
Malvis, no, you missed that training. That's what we were just talking about. There's a new form that you don't have to ask anymore. It says seller or seller's broker to buyer's broker. It says sellers or seller's broker. So it's you don't have to ask anymore. There's the new form has that.
Yes, but you have to click one of them. That's
No,
what I'm.
They have to do their part. They decide that. You fill out your part and send it to them. They should have, as the listing agent, they should already have them filled out. But they don't.
That would explain. Okay.
Yeah, so you don't have to fill out their part. You let them fill out their part.
So I just put in. Okay, sorry. So I just put in my buyer's associate. I just fill that out, and I put in whatever. When I ask them how much are they paying, I just put that percentage on the bottom and send that over, and they will fill it out according to what they wrote on their agreement.
Yes. Or whatever you negotiate, because they've got to go back and negotiate some too.
Yeah. Well, I have one that's filled out twice. Sorry.
Yeah, just fill it. You could just put it on the contract, because a lot of times you're going to call them and they're going to say 2% or something like that you're not happy with. There's no reason to argue with them or do anything else. Just put it on the contract at 3%. Say I'm going to make my offer contingent on a different.
I did, and they counter back. So I put the 3% and they counter back. So that's fine. Thank you.
Well, you can you're negotiating. The beauty of this buyer brokerage agreement is you're negotiating on behalf of your buyer now. It's not for you to be a greedy agent. Your buyer owes you money, so you're operating on their behalf.
Correct. Yeah, I'll take what they're giving me. I want my buyer to get the house. I'm not going to argue over that.
There you go. But don't feel bad to say, we can pay, a couple thousand more and you pay me my 3% because they owe it to you. So it's up to you to decide that. Okay. So when you fill this out as the other agent, you're going to do, as the buyer's broker, you're just going to put Florida Realty Investments. You're going to put whatever the property address is, right? Well, my own home popped up there. The seller needs to figure this out. They need to figure that stuff out. You're putting the buyer's name, whatever it is, and you're putting the term. I mean, you can put 15 here. It doesn't matter. So they can't work around you on this. They can't go work with your buyer. You're still the procuring cause. 15's fine, 30, whatever you want to put there. It doesn't matter. I've had you guys call me and say, this buyer's agent wants 60 days here. Doesn't matter. It's their client. You're still going to offer them that fee. And then you go here. Typically, you're going to go here and do, if you want 3%, you get 3%. If you put plus here, that means they're going to pay you more. This isn't for the client to pay. This isn't anything else. So there you have it. All right.
Okay, so I missed on the if you go up under where it says term, term means for the length of the transaction, like from
once this transaction gets started, it doesn't matter.
It doesn't matter.
Right. So once it gets started, if this thing goes on for 150 days without closing because of open permits or whatever, you're still getting the 3%.
So it's okay to leave term in there.
No, that's called the term. So you just leave 15. It doesn't matter what you put here. You don't write term. You just put a number, 15, 30, you can put whatever you want. But if you see it's not important, it's not that important. If left blank, then 15. It's not that important. We're discussing this client. We're doing everything else. you're agreeing to pay me. I mean, put a longer number in there if you don't have a contract yet. But if you already have it under contract, then it doesn't matter what this is. You can put one.
Okay.
Okay. So you'll fill out what you can. You can fill out the buyer's name. You can fill out the address of the property. Obviously, you know that. The buyer's broker, obviously, that's your broker. And you guys sign here for this. Seller's broker, authorized associate, you initial. Okay. Let's talk about this. So we've had this too, and we talked about it briefly the other day. If seller compensating buyer's broker, all controversies, claims, other matters, blah, blah, blah. Prevailing party, look at this second last line. The prevailing party will be entitled to recover reasonable, if litigation arises out of this agreement, the prevailing party will be able to entitle reasonable attorney fees and costs unless the parties agree that disputes will be settled by arbitration as followed. We prefer, if you're doing things the right way, you prefer to avoid frivolous litigation. And the way to do that is not arbitration, because everybody's got to pay their own way through arbitration. The way to do that is to have the prevailing party recover their reasonable attorney's fees. That way I won't start a stupid lawsuit with you for no reason when you're right and I'm wrong, and I think you are, but I don't like you and I want to drag you to court. I won't do that because I'm going to have to pay your attorney's fees and my attorney's fees and whatever I lose. So that keeps frivolous lawsuits away. That's why we don't recommend arbitration. If you want to do arbitration, or they enforce arbitration, some they're like, oh, my broker won't let me do it unless we do arbitration, then fine. I mean, these things, they rarely, this is 1 out of 10,000 is going to go to court for anything, but you want to make sure, right?
So not to initial that part. If you get,
I prefer that you don't. But it says, but we had a title lady, one of our agents, that they had, this has to be, all of these, they said all of these have to be initial, which is impossible because we're agreeing. So if seller's broker is compensating buyer's broker, so this is for sellers. If seller is compensating buyer broker, this title person who doesn't know what they're doing, it's a new form, so they don't have any idea what they're doing. They said, oh no, these all have to be initialed. Well, how can they? This is for seller doing it. This is for seller's broker doing it. And they want everything initialed. It doesn't make sense, one or the other. And you never have to do arbitration. They want this to go to the NAR. They want this to go between the two, but you don't have to sign that either. Okay. I want things to go to court if I can help it, because we won't get frivolous lawsuits. If you want to go to that board and take your chances, I've seen them make terrible decisions. They'll go in there with the buyer or the seller and say, who did you want to pay a commission to? And I mean, it's just awful. It's just 5 people in there not wanting to be there. Most of them have nothing better to do. I don't want to trash the people who do it, but a lot of them are trying to help, but they don't want to be there. And they'll make decisions based on whatever is going to give them the least grief, which is typically just siding with the consumer. So whoever brought the consumer in probably wins. That's what we've seen in many years of doing that for you guys. All right. So there you go.
So which one for us should we initial? None, correct?
No, don't do any unless they make you. Yeah. Okay. But if you're doing this one, you're typically going to end up in front of the board. That's not the biggest deal in the world, the seller's broker, but typically you're end up in front of the board, which is not a big deal. It's a morning of wasted time, and now they do it all by Zoom. So, Eric, you have a question?
Yeah, just, on the commercial side, is this something also that has to be completed too as well for, because, in commercial, typically we're used to still the listing or the seller paying the commission on both sides.
Well, right. And we are too.
Okay.
So what you're going to do in a commercial is typically you'll have it. So commercial deals have it in the contract, right?
Okay. Yeah. I was just wondering if this was different.
No other brokers besides CB Richard Ellis and Florida Realty Investments have any claim, and those brokers are getting paid 3% each, is what it says in one of the last paragraphs of the contract. You guys aren't bound to these things. If it's on MLS, it's supposed to have this. Are you a realtor or are you just commercial? Like, are you a member of the MLS and all that? Eric? Okay. Let me know when you get your sound back. But if you're not a member, then you don't have to worry about it. And if it's not on the MLS, you don't have to worry about it. So if you guys are buying off-market properties and stuff like that, some other brokers may want you to. If you're working with other brokers, they may want you to, but you don't have to. If you sell both sides of your deal, we don't need this form. Okay, we don't need to say that Carolina is paying Carolina on the other side of the deal. We know that. Okay, Vivian.
When you say taking you to the board, do you mean the realtor board?
Yes.
How would that apply to me?
It would not.
Okay.
All right. And it's none of their concern, none of their business. So they would have to take you to court. So you don't have to worry about it. So Vivian's asking that because she's a member of our Thompson brokerage. So she's not a realtor. She's an MLS member, but she doesn't go to the board. Any other questions? All right, wait. Leave that site. I'm going to go to the one I sent you guys. Nope. Oh, here it is. All right, let me share this. Reached. All right. So this is what I sent you guys. This is very important. So this makes you look, guys, if you are doing something like this, it makes you look like you know what you're doing. You give something like this to this, you can do it however you want. With your client, you can rearrange this stuff. It doesn't look perfect. This is literally, like I told you, ChatGPT made this for me in 21 seconds and made it into a PDF and let me download it. So this is what they did. And I like to do stuff like this for you guys just to show you how easy it is. It shows you where the paragraphs that the deposits are found. It shows you where the inspection period is found. It shows you where all this stuff is found so they can reference the contract as well. Okay. But the effective date, like we talked about with Malvis, there was talking about the effective date of yesterday. So that would be February 3rd. The closing date, March 20th. Closing time, that's to be determined later. That's not very important as a key date right now. Closing agent and title company, put that on there. Initial deposit, initial due date. I imagine that ChatGPT would probably fill all this out for you if you downloaded your contract, if you uploaded your contract into it. It would upload this information for you. An additional deposit, that's not a thing for us. So if you're going to do this, you'd probably take that out. The inspection period, when it ends, that's very important. Terminate by delivering notice before inspection period, all this stuff. This is great stuff. Title evidence, commitment due. The flood thing doesn't need to be on here. Survey doesn't need to be on here unless they're doing that, but we're going to get to that when we get to it. They don't need to worry about it now, but these are all dates that can be done later. Okay. These ones on this side. So calendar days, time is of the essence. If deadline falls on Saturday, Sunday, federal holiday, it rolls to the next day. That is not important stuff to know. Right. Except for calendar days is except for the escrow deposit. Right. All right, closing extensions, watch out. So they even did force majeure on here. So fantastic form to have. It can be doctored up a little bit, but that is very easy. I could go back into ChatGPT and tell it to take stuff off and put stuff on, and they'll do all that stuff. Tell it I want a little different spacing, whatever, or just make it a Word file and not go and fix it myself. So those are all things that you can do, but that should go into your deal package for your client. Let your client see this, fill it out for them and let them see it so they know. And one of the dates that should be in here, also one thing I would add is, nope, they got it. Loan application due, right? And maybe put these in, I might put these in a little different order, but time order instead of contract order, so we know all these dates. So if you don't have a key dates for your buyers and your sellers, it's important to do that. Olga, this form is on your email where I sent you the invitation to this meeting. It was an attachment. Did everybody get it? Because I send out 3 different emails. We have so many agents. I have to send out 3 different emails when we do this. So I want to see, we got people with a B last name, people with a K last name, people with a P last name. That's everybody. It should be. So everybody should have gotten it. All right. Any other questions do you guys have? Questions or comments about anything? Doesn't have to be about this. I'm done with this. If you are. Vivian, you have a question? Okay, Carolina.
I have a question. I noticed on the MLS that it says Zillow owns Stellar MLS. I don't know if I missed a meeting on this, but what does that mean?
Zillow owns it? No, the Stellar MLS is owned by the association.
I
Zillow
know,
is-
but when I log in, it says Zillow Stellar MLS.
Let me log in.
And I was
I haven't
like,
seen it.
I don't know what this means exactly, but it was just weird to me. And I don't know if it's because I'm Thompson. I don't know.
No. Zillow doesn't own MLS. They say
Oh, okay. It says Zillow. It says Zillow on there. I'll
Okay.
screenshot it and send it
Yeah,
to you.
send it to me.
Okay.
Yeah, send that to me. Natalie.
Hi, good morning, Ryan. I
Good morning.
love that form. Is that going to be on paperless pipeline by any chance?
Could
it be added
It
or?
certainly can. I'll ask Jeanette to put it on there. She'll put it on.
Thank you.
All right. Yep. And you own it. But I would have it, honestly, I would want to make it a Word file anyway, so you can adjust the dates and stuff on it, or you can do a PDF filler on it. But I don't like the spacing and stuff that it gets, but that's me. I have a little OCD about spacing and forms.
Yeah, I think it's weird that the first column is only 4 of the categories and the second column. I would balance it out more
Yeah,
myself.
or just
Yeah.
make it one long thing. But it did
Yeah.
ask, I want a one pager, and I did want a one pager. I didn't
Yeah.
want something longer than that. But some of that stuff's not important. I could take a lot of that stuff out too.
Right.
It's not just not important. It's just not for the client to worry about, because I'd want to share that with the client. But thank you. Yes, we'll do something with that. Vivian.
Since you're the format is in question, and I agree with Tammy, it's off balance. But is it possible to put it in some sort of a calendar form with notations? Because when I'm doing timelines, it helps me to put it in the actual date as well as put the date in writing, both visually and tactily.
Yep.
I
Let's
mean,
see.
where did that form come from? Is it possible to convert it to a date type
Guys,
of format?
you guys are just going to think I'm the biggest Chat GPT hero ever, because that's all I use for this stuff. So I just say, can you put this calendar form? Look what it made me when I said I wanted to know the key dates and stuff. It went through this key dates checklist. I asked it for, what did I ask it for? Oh, I just told it which
You can do Word format or like an
I'm sure.
Excel, and they'll create it.
I'm sure. No, I
Mhm.
know. I just didn't ask for that.
I have this too. Thank you, Ryan. I love it.
It's great. So all I did was ask it to do a key dates thing, and here it goes.
Based on an actual contract or a generic
No, that's the Florida. That's the Florida as is. But what I think I probably could do is put in an actual one with key dates. So I might try that. Put in an
Yeah, if you
actual
uploaded a contract and then said, print out a calendar form of the key dates, maybe, like a executed contract,
Mhm.
and then it could pull from that onto a calendar,
I'm
maybe.
going to do that right now. I'm going to take one of the contracts you guys turned in last night, and I'm going to do it. Put it up. I'll let you know how it turns out next week.
Oh, I've not done that. How do you do that? Do you upload?
I would
this?
take if you have a new contract, I would run it through there. I would upload it into Chat GPT and say, give me
the
the key dates.
PDF contract. Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I've not done that. Where
I
it says
thought
share.
it would do it. It took it found it. No, I didn't even send it an as is. It found one online
Oh, okay.
to give me all the key dates, and then it said which version, because I found a bunch of versions. Which version? And so I looked up the one we use. It was 1224 was the latest revision.
Mm-hmm.
All right, this is really cool stuff, though. I mean, this is the kind of stuff now it's thinking for longer, but give it some time. All right, guys. Any other questions? I'm gonna share all this stuff with you guys next week.
Hey,
Actually-
Ryan, sorry. This is Eric again. I got cut off. My internet literally shut off for a few seconds. I was wondering if I could just call you later and if you could just explain it to me later after the meeting.
Sure. I explained it after you left anyway for everybody else.
Okay.
If you're not, are you part of MLS?
I am not. No.
Okay, then you don't have to worry about any of that stuff. All your stuff is going to be on the contract. That's regular commercial real estate. This is only for MLS and realtors.
Okay. Gotcha.
All right. So even if realtors buy stuff that's off market, they don't have to use this form.
Okay.
All right. So, next Wednesday at the office, we're doing headshots, February 11th. We're going to have a sign-up sheet, free headshots for you guys at the office. You get a couple of, I don't want to speak for Alexi because he's not in here right now, I don't believe, but you get a couple of touch-up ones, and you can buy more stuff if you want. But Alexi's doing it for free. He wants to get your business on your listings and stuff too, but he's doing it for free. He's actually an agent with us. He's the one who did it. He did it a year or two ago. He did it then. So we're doing
What
it.
do you mean touch-ups?
Some of us, not you, but some of us need touch-ups. You know, like we need help. So
No,
he
you
does all
don't.
that stuff. He edits them.
Like they add hair to
Oh, can I
Ryan's head.
send him one of mine and a new picture and he'll do it?
They
Without
call it
me
a filter,
having to go?
Ryan.
Yeah. So Carolina, I don't know, but he'd love to get a new picture of you. That's when he does. That's how he does it.
I
Takes me
know,
to-
but I have like on a court date that I have to go to on the 11th. And I don't know what time is he gonna be at the office?
It's I think 10 to 2.
10 to 2? That's gonna be hard for me to doll up. No, just kidding. I'll see what I can do.
You can't. Well, if they find you innocent, you might have time to get there after.
Yeah, not that kind of court.
Well, that's no fun then. All right. Well, there you go. Here's your calendar. So I guess if you did it, if you put in the dates, he would do the whole thing for you. He or she or whatever the Chat GPT is, it would do the whole thing for you. And you can use a better looking. I just threw this logo on there. We have better looking logos than that would blend in.
Can you send that to us?
I can, but I mean, yeah, I can. It's not going to do any good. It doesn't have any dates on it. But
No. Oh, you're saying it's as a template. We couldn't upload it and then fill it in like with DocuSign.
no, you
or
can fill it in
something?
yourself if you want to. But I think I could tell it. I think I could tell. I'm not going to let it do all this for you because it's going to take a while. Can you create one with an effective date? So it'll think on that for a little bit, but that's the kind of thing you want to do, right? And you can even say for the Jones family buying 248, Oak Street, and it'll do the whole thing for you. Okay, that's pretty cool. It's really, this whole AI thing is amazing and scary and everything else. So, my opinion. Yeah, we'll figure that out. All right, guys. Any other questions for today? Nope. All right. Next week, don't forget, get your haircuts, get whatever you need to get there for your, I want to make sure we have lots of people who want to do it too. Do we have any interest in it for headshots? Anybody? I know Carolina, Jessica, Sandy. Awesome. All right, guys.
I will come, but I'll be on vacation next week.
All right. Well, we'll do it. Guys, we'll cancel that. We're going to do it when Malvis gets back. I wish we could, Malvis, but it's going to be next week.
Yes, I
February
know.
11th.
I did it the last time he did it, though.
Okay. Oh, okay. Yeah, last year. Okay, last year, the year before. Yeah. All right, Malvis. Fantastic. Thank you, everybody. Thanks for coming. I'll let you guys know how this goes, and we'll talk about it next time. Even
Thank
next
you, Ryan.
Wednesday at the office. All right. Bye, everybody. Take care.